welcome to Makeup and Monarchies. My name is Tiffany. I am a makeup artist, hairstylist, and lover of all things UK history, medieval history. Today, we are concluding our Henry VIII series with his last and final wife who survived him, Catherine Parr. If you have not done so yet, please hit the subscribe button. If it looks like this is something you'd be interested in and like to watch every week when I post about something. All the makeup I'm using will be listed down below in the description box. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it, and leave a comment just because it helps with the algorithm. I think that's it. Oh, we're done. Like, let's just get in. So Catherine Parr was born in Blackfriars, London in more than likely 1512 in the month of August. She was the oldest child of Thomas Parr and Maud Green. Thomas Parr was a descendant of Edward III, who wasn't, and a close companion of Henry VIII. And likewise with her mother, she was close with Catherine of Aragon and actually worked in her household. And it's assumed that Catherine Parr was named after Catherine of Aragon. Thomas Parr died. I have a ton of spots. So Thomas Parr died when Catherine was very young, and she became very, very close to her mother. She was raised Catholic and received an education of high status. She was fluent in French, Italian, and Latin. Her first husband, Sir Edward Berg. I was going to say Burra because it's like the Scottish way to say it. I don't like, what the fuck am I doing? Edward was in his 20s and his health wasn't great. He died in 1533, so they were only married for a few years. And after his death, Catherine may have gone north to stay or to spend time with Catherine Neville, the Dowager Lady Strickland. The Dowager Lady had been married to Catherine's cousin, Sir Walter Strickland. In summer of 1534, Catherine married again, and this time it was to John Neville, 3rd Baron Latimer, and he was her father's second cousin and a kinsman to Lady Strickland. Latimer also was twice Catherine's age and had 2 children from a previous marriage. So this gave Catherine her own home, a title, and influence in the north. So I'm doing a really easy, like my everyday eye makeup today. I just did a tan, so we all know I'm not that great at doing it. I don't give a shit. I just can't take the pale white skin that I have. So Latimer supported the Catholic Church and had been opposed to the king's annulment and from Catherine of Aragon and his second marriage to Anne Boleyn. During the Lincolnshire Rising in October of 1536, rebels showed up at Latimer's house and threatened violence. So they threatened violence if he didn't join them to reinstate Rome in England. He was dragged away and was gone until April of 1537. So Catherine lived alone. She was scared and had 2 stepchildren with her. She was about 25 at the time, and this probably is what led her to adhere to the Reformed Church, and I'm sure this scared the hell out of her. So in January of 1537, she was held hostage with her stepchildren at Snape Castle in North Yorkshire. What are we using today? I've been using Cork. Yeah, we'll use Cork again. I've been liking how my makeup's been coming out for the week. The rebels destroyed the house and sent word to Latimer that if he didn't come back immediately, they were going to kill his family. He did return and he was able to talk the rebels down. So I'm just going in with that crease color, and I'm gonna kind of look up and blend out that line on the top, if you can see it. King Henry and his BFF, Thomas Cromwell, were hearing reports that Latimer was either a sympathizer or a prisoner or a conspirator. If he was the latter and found guilty of treason, he'd lose all his lands and would leave Catherine and his 2 children poor, penniless. Henry contacted Thomas Howard, Duke of Norfolk, and pressed him to make sure Latimer would, quote, condemn the villain Robert Ass, and submit to our clemency. Latimer obeyed, and it's thought that Catherine's brother and uncle got involved to save Latimer's life. So I'm just doing like a outer V. So because of all this drama, his reputation went down the drain and it affected Catherine. The family spent a lot of the time... Oh, a good job. The family spent a lot of time in the South, and in 1542, they were in London while Latimer was attending Parliament. Catherine was able to visit her brother and sister at court, and it was around this time that Catherine met and got to know Sir Thomas Seymour. If he sounds familiar, or the last name sounds familiar, that would be because Thomas was the younger brother of Jane Seymour, Henry's third wife. I've done sparkle for the last, did you sparkle last week? I don't remember. But I've been doing a glittery eye, so we're not doing that today. Doing very simple. I was going to do the Lana Del Rey look, but by the time this comes out, I'm sure that will have passed. So womp womp. Actually, you know what? I said that, but I'm going to go in with a lighter shade on the lid, just a touch. So I'm going to use the Makeup by Mario Ethereal palette and the lightest shade right here, and I'm just gonna brighten up that inner eye just like that. This is what I think to all the haters. I'm just kidding, I didn't realize I was using that finger. Okay, better. Now I'm gonna jump off and just do my liner really quick, so I may come back with a bold one. We'll see. Gonna find out in a second. Okay, back. Clearly I went for it. So, where are we at? So, come winter 1542, Latimer's health got really bad, and Catherine nursed him until his death in 1543. I can't put this in that drawer anymore. And Catherine was named guardian of his daughter Margaret in his will, and was assigned to his affairs until his daughter was old enough. So she was left the manor of Stowe in Northamptonshire and other properties, as well as money to support his daughter. And in the event Margaret didn't marry within 5 years, Catherine was supposed to take £30 a year out of the income to support her. Catherine was left a rich widow. This color looks strange when it goes on. And she was left with possibly having to return up north. PTSD, I'm sure. It's thought that Catherine did mourn Latimer sincerely because she carried around his New Testament that had his name inscribed on it with her until her death. Now, remember how Catherine's mother worked in the household of Catherine of Aragon? Catherine took that opportunity to create a friendship with Mary Tudor, Lady Mary, who was Catherine's daughter. Fucking words escape me today. So by mid-February of 1543, Catherine was part of Mary's household and caught the eye in the attention of the king. At this time, she had started a romantic friendship, like friends with benefit, maybe, with Thomas Seymour. But Catherine felt it was her duty to say yes to Henry's proposal. So Thomas was given a job in Brussels and yeeted him from court. Catherine and Henry were married. Oh, that was awful. On July 12th at Hampton Court Palace. Funny enough, that was when, I'm pretty sure that's the same date that Henry's marriage was annulled from Anne of Cleves. I'm not going to look, but I'm pretty sure that's the same date. She was the first queen of England to also hold the title of Queen of Ireland because Henry had took that title briefly. She was also the third Catherine that he married and was distantly related to him through several royal ancestors. Once Catherine became queen, she employed her stepdaughter Margaret into her household, as well as her cousin Maud, Lady Jane, and her stepson's wife, Lucy Somerset. Catherine was in part responsible for reconciling Henry with his children and made a good relationship with his son Edward. Upon her becoming queen, her uncle also became her Lord Chamberlain. Did you know she was also like a author? I didn't know that prior to this. So Catherine's poems, or her prayers, were taken out of Holy Scripture and was printed on April 25th of 1544 by the king's printers. So this was a translation of a Latin commission by Bishop John Fisher. Sound familiar? If not, he will in a minute. So this translation had been printed on April 18th of 1544. John had been executed for refusing to take the oath of supremacy in 1535. The book Catherine had came when they were finished with the war preparations against France and Scotland. Henry left for his campaign in France in July of 1544 and was gone until September. He had left Catherine as his regent. She had a regent council of men who were sympathetic members, and some of them were Thomas Cranmer, Lord Hertford, and upon her request, her uncle William Parr, Lord Parr of Horton. Catherine acquired effective control and ruled how she deemed necessary. She took care of things that had to do with Henry's French campaign, as well as signing 5 royal proclamations, and kept in contact with her lieutenant in the northern marches, Lord Shrewsbury, over the unstable situation in Scotland. Now, Catherine had a second publication that came around June of 1545, and this was a bestseller like her first book. It went around in manuscript and deluxe print copies. The young Princess Elizabeth translated it into Latin, Italian, and French for a Christmas gift for her father, Henry, obviously, in 1545, and presented it in a hand embroidered cover that is now digitized in the British Library. Catherine's religious views were seen as suspicious by the anti-Protestant officials, and as we covered in the beginning, Catherine was raised as a Catholic, but she later became a sympathizer and was interested in the new faith, and by the mid-1540s, it was under suspicion that she was a Protestant. Because of this, in 1545, Bishop of Winchester and Lord, I always have a hard time with this one, Worsley, tried to turn Henry on Catherine, and an arrest warrant was drawn up, and the rumor mill started churning out some shit saying that Henry had eyes for Catherine's friend, the Duchess of Suffolk, which was Catherine Brandon, who was wife to Henry's friend Charles Brandon. Catherine saw the warrant and was able to reconcile with Henry by saying the only reason why she argued with him over religion was because it took his mind off of his pain from the ulcers in his legs. Whatever it takes, man. Like, say whatever you gotta say, I guess. I'm sure this. So after, right after that, they reconciled. They were taking a walk, and guards were not aware that everything was okay and didn't need to arrest her. So while they're on the walk, 2 guards rock up and try to arrest her. And I'm sure that did not go over well for those guards, because I'm sure Henry was pissed. Henry's health started to decline in the end of 46. So he made an allowance, and he knew it. I think he knew it was coming. So he made an allowance for Catherine in the sum of £7,000 a year, which at that time, was a lot of money. I think it's probably close to $1 million now, if not more. I'm sure. If I'm wrong, tell me, but pretty sure it was up there. He also ordered that after his death, Catherine be treated like the queen, as if he was still alive, even though she would be Dowager Queen. After Henry died in January of 1547, Prince Edward was crowned king on January 31st of 1547, and Catherine retired from court and went to live at her house at Old Manor in Chelsea. So Thomas Seymour comes back to court now as the king's uncle. He immediately persuaded marriage to Catherine. This is going to be in and out because I'm doing this and I have a hard time doing it when I'm talking. She accepted, knowing it would not be permitted for the Dowager Queen to marry so soon after the king's death, Catherine and Thomas were married in secret at the end of May of 1547. The news became public. Edward VI and his council were not told about this marriage, and when it became public, it became a scandal. Both Edward and his older sister Mary were not pleased. I really need new mascara. If there's any like good recommendations for a new mascara, please let me know. Thomas was censored and reprimanded by the council, and then wrote to the Lady Mary and asked her to intervene on his behalf. She got pissed and at his actions and then refused to help. She then asked her younger sister Elizabeth not to correspond with Queen Catherine anymore. Kind of sad because it's probably the only mother that Elizabeth ever knew was Catherine Parr. I am in desperate need for a new mascara. This is crazy. It's so dried out. I don't know if this one, the milk one is. So Catherine's brother-in-law and sister-in-law, that would be Edward, Duke of Somerset, Lord Protector, and his wife Anne. There became some tension between them. A little bit of a rivalry because Anne said that Catherine wasn't entitled. I'm trying to find a damn brush because oh, there it is. Every time I say it, I always find it right. Where the fuck is there it is. I'm just gonna highlight above here just to pull out that part of just a little bit, and then I like to do that there, just to pop them up. I'm gonna keep this. I usually would brighten this a little bit, but I'm not gonna do that today. I'm not gonna do it. So Anne is spouting her mouth off saying that Catherine's not entitled to the jewels because they belong to the wife of the king, and since her husband was now Lord Protector of the king, she was entitled to wear them. So this completely severed their relationship, and it never got any better. It also caused massive issues between the brothers, Thomas and Edward, because Thomas saw it as a personal attack on his social standing. Do I look crazy? I do. We're doing the lip right now, but I'm going to continue. So Catherine published her third book in November of 1547, The Lamentation of a Sinner. And this book, hold on, I'm just like on an overline a little bit. If you didn't understand that, I'm going to overline a little bit. So I'm using Bark from Vive as the outer color of the line. And I'm just going to shade in a little bit here. And I go on the edges. I'm going to pull that up like that. Then I'm going in with Velvet Sands, and I'm just gonna blend that line out a little bit more. Oh, so I'm like ombreing it a little bit, and I'm just holding it. I'm not going straight in, just holding it off to the side. I hate this side of my lip. I hate it. This is why I got lip filler done on this side a few years ago. I hate it. Better. And this book was promoted by the Protestant concept of justification. I'm just going in now with Vive OG Lip Dew. Oh, I like that a lot. The Catholic Church deemed the book heresy. The book was sponsored by Catherine's friend, Catherine Brandon, the Duchess of Suffolk, and Catherine's brother, William Parr, as well as William Cecil, who became Elizabeth's chief minister. I bet that was so loud. Sorry. And William Cecil had wrote the preface of it. Catherine became pregnant when she was 35. Salty over that because now it's considered a geriatric pregnancy. It's such bullshit. And it was a surprise pregnancy because Catherine hadn't conceived in her first three marriages, so this came out of nowhere. And while she was pregnant, Thomas started showing interest in the Lady Elizabeth, the king's sister, Henry's daughter, and Catherine's stepdaughter. So Catherine had found the two of them in an embrace. The next part is a little ick. Like, not a little, it's a lot of ick. And this has always bothered me and made me nauseous. I just want to remind you that Elizabeth is about 15 at this time. I understand it was 500 years ago. I understand that it's not now. And maybe that's my modern mind and mothering mind and like looking at a child at 15 years old. But I know it's different. Just let me be bothered by some stuff. Based on the based on the deposition by Kat Ashley. It's said on a few occasions that Catherine not only agreed to the episodes of horseplay between Thomas and Elizabeth, but assisted him in it. Elizabeth was sent away May of 48 to stay with Sir Anthony Denys at Chestnut and never saw the Dowager Queen Catherine again. Even though they wrote to each other, they did correspond and like write to each other. There was a letter sent to the married couple from Elizabeth that read as she was remorseful for the events that happened. There is more that happened here, but that's part of Elizabeth's story and not Catherine's. So if and when I do anything on or Elizabeth, cover Elizabeth, we'll discuss it then. So in June of 48, Catherine went with Lady Jane Grey when she moved to Sudley Castle in Gloucestershire, and Catherine promised to provide an education for her. In June of 48, Catherine went with Lady Jane Grey when she went to Sudley Castle in Gloucestershire, and Catherine promised to provide an education for Jane. Catherine spent her last few months being pregnant at Sudley. She gave birth to her daughter, Mary Seymour, on August 30th of 1548. Unfortunately, Catherine died 5 days later on September 5th due to childbed fever at Sudley. Her funeral was held on September 7th, and her chief mourner was Lady Jane Grey. She was buried in St. Mary's Chapel in Gloucestershire. So this next bit's a little meh, but like after, obviously, so over 200 years later, after her death in the late 1700s, her tomb was opened. After it was opened a few times, and in the times it was opened, pieces of her dress and her hair were collected, and most of those artifacts are now on display at Sudley Castle. So that's it for Catherine Parr, and we're gonna do fun fact right now. So fun facts on Catherine Parr. Her funeral was the first Protestant funeral in England. She was the first woman to publish books in her own name. There's little records to show what happened to her daughter. It's believed that she died young as an orphan since her father, or maybe he hadn't. Anyways, Thomas ended up being beheaded. Okay. They're not sure when she died. She could have died in infancy, but she may have been an orphan, but there's very little records on her. Catherine's influential example of feminine leadership shaped Elizabeth's own ideas as queen. So I think what in the fuck is happening? So I think she saw like a strong feminine woman, and she modeled herself after that. So that's it for Catherine Parr today. And this concludes the Henry VIII series that I have been doing for the past 2+ months. Where do we go from here? Well, we're heading north, and we're going to start doing stuff about Scotland. So I'm wicked excited. I cannot wait. There's some stuff coming down the line I'm really excited to share with you, but we're not there yet. Per usual, all the products that I used are listed down below in the description. If you liked this video, I'm sorry, I'm moving my drink. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment or an emoji in the comments. That helps with the algorithm and it boosts me a little bit. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe and make sure the bell has been rung so that you get notifications when I post. I think that's it, guys. I've been living in the first half of the 1500s for I feel like forever. So I'm a little excited to be done with this. Not that I don't love it, because I do, but it's time to move on. So that's it for today. I will see you next week, and I don't know what it's going to be on yet, but I think it's going to be on Alexander III of Scotland. I think that's what I'm going to do, or maybe just an event. I don't know, or maybe there's a collab coming down the line again. Yeah, that's it. So have a great week. See you next week. I'll talk to you soon. If you haven't followed me on socials, do that so that you can see what I post every day. Yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.